Hi there, my name's John Stevens, pastor of Zion Lutheran Church in Oregon City, Oregon, and we're part of the ELCA, and welcome to Dollar Store Children's Sermons, where we take a look at the lectionary text and we tie them to an item from the Dollar Tree. This is for the fourth Sunday after Epiphany, and we're looking at the Gospel lesson, which is out of Luke, and it's following last week's Gospel lesson, where that one, my theme was, God is up to something, and in Jesus, God is up to something, and then this Gospel lesson expands it. And Jesus starts talking about kind of the things that God is up to, and the circle is getting expanded, and people are not too thrilled with that idea. I mean, so much that they're angry and they want to run him out of town. So what do we do with this? And so I'm looking at, the items I'm looking at using is a cup, maybe 2 cups, and a plate. And the idea is that the people of God, and that's you, that's me, that's the world, but especially in this text and when we look at the Old Testament of Israel being chosen to be God's people and God wrapping them in the promise, that God says they are blessed to be a blessing. That's this idea of this cup that overflows. My dad, years ago, I say years ago, now it's about 4 years ago, at the Jazz Festival in Sun Valley, heard a gospel singer who says the phrase, I drink from the saucer because my cup overflows. What a wonderful image. Now, in this text, Jesus is talking about how God is healing and blessing people by those who are outside of what we deem the promise, that God is including them in God's work, and that is offensive stuff for the people listening. So, a way of getting at this text, I think, is you have a plate and a cup, and you can either, in your second cup, you have a cup full of water, and then you've got a saucer and a cup and another cup, and that cup is full of water, and you can pour into the one cup until it overflows onto the saucer or onto the plate. That's one way to do it. And you might do it 2 ways. Have it set up to where you've got 2 sets of plates, or you've got one where you do it and you talk about being that this is one way that God uses us to get God's mission done. But Dave Daubert, I believe, who's a missionary in the Lutheran Church, and I'll call him that, and he's great. And one of the things I love what he has said is God is on a mission. God is going to get God's mission done whether we're part of it or not, and we get to be part of it. And I just love that idea. And so in this, that it's like, so here there's one way that God blesses the world, and that's through us as the water gets poured and then it flows over the cup into the saucer and expands. There's that. But then there's other ways that God, and we see this in the text, that God is working when God pours, basically God's blessings starts from outside of the cup, outside of what we think is the thing, the inside. God's blessing happens outside of that. And so instead of maybe pouring into the cup, pour directly onto the saucer, onto the plate. And it can be something like, what are ways that we can get water into the saucer? One is that you can pour it into the cup and you keep pouring it until it overflows over, or you can pour directly onto the saucer, onto the plate. And looking at saying this is what's happening in this gospel lesson is Jesus is saying God is blessing the world, and God is using people outside of what we think is the box. God is acting outside of the box, way beyond thinking outside of the box. God is using the world to bless the world. Anyway, ways to go on this, but that's the direction I'm going, is that, springboarding on last week's, God is up to something, and this is what it's kind of looking like, and it might make us wonder what God is up to. But the best part about that is that when we think we're on the outside, when we think we don't belong, when we think we are outside of the promise, this again is a text that says God is using you. God is blessing you. God is blessing the world through you. All right, so I hope that can be a springboard for your own thinking. As always, thanks for stopping by, and I hope you have a fantastic week.